Hello and welcome to Running for the Bus, presented by BKDMC, supported by Runner and hosted by me, Ben Kelleher. Joining me today from St Petersburg, Florida, is the Chief Executive Officer of the Abbott World Marathon Majors, Dawna Stone. Dawna is a highly regarded entrepreneur, having founded Women's Running Magazine and the Women's Half Marathon Series, as well as being the winner of NBC's The Apprentice. She's also the world-renowned author of 9 best-selling books and a leading speaker for the likes of Disney, ABC, the Super Bowl, and many, many more. Not only that, she's also an Ironman athlete, an avid runner, and a mother of 2. There really, really is no stopping her. Dawna, it's so lovely to see you. How are you?
Thank you. So good to be here. Thank you for having me on.
It's really a total pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. I know you've been crazy busy lately, so I really appreciate you giving me a bit of time today and getting into these questions. So, I initially wanted to discuss your experiences way before you became the CEO of the majors. So, like, what was life like for you growing up? Were you always active within sports?
Yeah, so believe it or not, I was not a runner. I was a swimmer and very competitive swimmer. I swam at UC Berkeley here in the States. And I have a lot of friends from the team that have gold medals, silver medals, bronze medals from the Olympics. But I grew up swimming 5 to 8 hours every single day. And running was a punishment for us, right? So if you did something wrong in the pool or the coach wasn't happy, he'd pull you out and we'd have to go run laps on the track.
Wow.
So it started my athletic career, I would say, was running was the punishment and swimming was my training.
That's so interesting. That's so true. I myself was not much of a runner when I was growing up. Like when I got into London, I couldn't run for like 5 minutes, and then I just luckily I was one of those people like that got in on the ballot first time when I was 17, and
Oh
yeah,
my
just
goodness.
suddenly had to start training. But I've done some. I did a try this year, and the thought of swimming for 5 to 8 hours that sounds like pure torture to me. That's my least probably favorite out of the three
I was gonna
disciplines.
say, everybody says
In the
that's usually
case,
their
right?
least favorite unless you grew up swimming. It's my favorite because I was nowhere near pro status, but I would get out of the water before all the pros, which was really fun.
Wow.
However, the sad part is I'm a decent cyclist, also a slower runner, and so I'd be in the front, and then all of a sudden all these pro runners would just pass me by like I was standing still.
That's quite frustrating, to be fair, if you've got out of the block, especially in, like, the try and everything that we'll get into a bit later, but it's also quite nice to get a bit of a head start, whereas I feel like I'm way back on the swim, and then suddenly I'm, like, creeping forward by the time the
Yeah,
run
but
kicks in.
that's more fun. That's more fun to pass people than be passed.
That is true, that is true, that is sort of what people say, like, you wanna see people ahead, right, and try and catch them
Yeah,
up, so no,
yeah.
that's very, very true. So, in 2004, you launched Women's Running Magazine in the US. Obviously, like you've sort of touched on there, like, maybe running wasn't your initial passion at the time, but then what gave you the inspiration to do that, and what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, yeah. So I had, like I said, been an athlete my whole life, swimming. And when I left college and had a real job, I worked on Wall Street for a financial analyst for a bank for Morgan Stanley. And really, all my training, everything kind of just completely stopped. And so, about a year into that new job, 15 pounds later, also, and just being super unhealthy and not feeling super fit anymore, my roommate and I started running in Central Park. Just, I mean, again, slowly. We did our first 5K, and from there, I fell in love, right? And running was kind of my, I don't know, my peaceful, minute period of time that I had while working on Wall Street and working those crazy hours.
Yeah.
And so I really got into running. I really got into triathlon. And this is then years later. I remember my favorite magazine was Sports Illustrated for Women. I don't know if people remember it. There was
Yeah.
also a magazine that Condé Nast did. I think it was called Women's Sports and Fitness. And I was in my office. I was the chief marketing officer for a very large billion-dollar company. And at lunchtime, I would take my mail, and I had the Sports Illustrated, magazine. I was all excited. I sat at my desk. I opened it up, and I read the letter from the editor, which is always the first thing I did. And it said, "This is our last issue of Sports Illustrated for Women. We're going to
Right.
cease
Yeah.
publication." And I was so upset because I felt like it was the only magazine out there for me that
Sure.
was something fun for me to read. I got excited about it. It motivated me, to get out the door in the morning and stay healthy. And so I came home that night from work, and I was married at the time, no kids yet. And my husband was sitting on the sofa, and I came in and I just said, "I'll be right back." And I went into my office. He's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'll be out in a minute. I'll be out in a minute." And like an hour later, I came back out and I had this really rough, I still have it, it's hilarious, like 10-page business plan. And I sat it down on the coffee table in front of my husband and I said, I'm going to launch a women's sports magazine. And he's like, what? So you got to remember, I had no experience. Like I
Out of
had worked on
nowhere.
Wall Street, I had worked in consulting, I had been in the C-suite of very large companies, but I had no idea how to launch a magazine, how to publish a magazine, how to work with advertisers. I mean, any of it. And I just said, I'm going to do it. And I said, don't worry to my husband, I'm not going to quit my job right away. I'm going to look into this, see if this makes sense. Can I really do it? And I did my homework, did my research, and had everybody tell me, don't do it. It won't work. It won't work. And I truly just believed in it, and it really worked. I mean, just became super successful. It was so much fun. One of the best things I have ever done, honestly.
Yeah, of course. I love that you took that sort of, disappointment and actually turned it into something like amazing. And it was almost instant. Like, as I guess, like you say, if that was the real only publication that you could go to at the time, you were kind of like, well, if it's not going to be there, then I've got to make it. And that's obviously led you down such a route as well. And we're going to get even more into that in a moment. But like in 2005, you obviously went on to win NBC's The Apprentice, which like is obviously a massive moment in anyone's life who has ever done that, which is pretty rare. So, what drew you to take part, and why?
Yeah.
Like, what did you take away from it?
So that seems like a lifetime ago. Like sometimes I don't even believe like that is my life. That was part of it. I had just launched my magazine, and probably it was only about a year and a half in, and it was doing really well. And my best friend from grad school, he had gone on the second season of The Apprentice with Donald Trump, and he called me up and he said, Dawna, you have to do this. It's just like grad school. They throw you in a room with people you don't know and you have to do a project. You'd be fabulous. You need to do it. And I said, yeah, no, I'm not interested. His name is Kelly. I said, Kelly, I'm not interested. I just launched my company. It's growing really fast.
Yeah,
There's no way I can do this. And he just kept calling me to the point where, and I'm going to age myself because it was like the little flip phone where you saw the tiny picture of the person on it. And I would see that Kelly's calling. And I finally just said, stop calling me. I am not interested. And I wasn't interested because, well, one, I had started my company. Two, The Apprentice with Donald Trump was all about real estate. And that was just not something I was interested in at all. And I was just not, this is not political at all. I was just not a fan of his, like business wise. And so
sure.
I just said no. And then Kelly called and said, no, just listen, Donna, Martha Stewart. I don't know, in the UK, she's not as popular as in the US, maybe.
Yeah, we know of her. Yeah, for
We're
sure.
queen of like, magazine publishing
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
healthy living, and is doing the next Apprentice. It's not Donald Trump. The third season is going to be Martha Stewart. He's like, there's a casting call in Tampa, where Tampa Bay, where I live,
Cool.
just go. And so again, I asked my husband at the time, I'm like, what do you think? And he's like, if it'll make Kelly stop calling you, just go. What's the chance of you, actually getting on
Yeah.
the show? So I went to this crazy casting call where there's thousands of people lined up at this
Wow.
hotel. And I went in and did that interview, and it just kept rolling to the next one. They came to my house, they filmed me. And before I knew it, I was in Los Angeles at the final interview. There were looking for, basically 15 people. There were 60 of us there. So that's how far I went. And I was just like, I'm not going to get on this show. You don't know me that well, but I'm not controversial. I don't do drama. I am just like, I love everybody. I look
Yeah.
for the best. And that's not what they're
Not
looking for.
necessarily. Yeah, not
I
necessarily ingredients for a reality TV show.
And
Quite right.
I'm in this interview with Mark Burnett, and there's all of us women only at this point. We're all lined up in this big conference room. And Mark says to us, everybody introduce yourself. And so I said what I was doing, Wall Street investment bank consulting. I, launched a magazine. And he went down the line. So I'm very business. And everybody was super creative, like Martha Stewart. I mean, we had a
Yeah,
glass blower, several chefs, artists. It was amazing. And they get to the end, and the last girl is a lawyer. And then Mark Burnett says, who do you think in this whole group could never win? And this lawyer, Amanda, says, Dawna. And then they go down the line, and every single person said my name. No one said anybody else's name but mine.
no
And
way.
Mark Burnett said, Dawna, what do you think? And I said, well, before I answer your question, who can't win? Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
And so I asked the group, what is the revenues of Martha Stewart's company? And nobody could answer. And I
Right.
said, well, it's either 30 million, 3 million or 300 million, and nobody still even took a guess. And I said, Mark, I can answer your question, who's not going to win the apprentice? And he's like, okay, who? And I said,
And
nobody here can win the apprentice. And I got out of that interview and I called my husband and I said, "Oh no, I think I'm gonna get on the show." Because all of a sudden I'm this super controversial person,
yeah, yeah,
and I did.
yeah,
I got on the show and I ended up winning, and I had a fabulous year with Martha Stewart. I learned a ton about magazine publishing and TV, and she gave me a radio show on Sirius Satellite Radio. It was
yeah.
a fabulous experience.
Yeah, of course. So much to take away, and yeah, thank goodness Kelly kept calling because, yeah, look what happened. And as you say, it's not always the loudest people in the room, is it? It's the ones that
No,
make
no,
out
it's so
the
yeah, but it
ones
was
who bring
fabulous.
the
Mark
press.
Burnett said it'll be the hardest thing you ever do when we went into filming, and I'm thinking, "I've done Hawaii Ironman, I've done a
Yeah,
marathon, this what is he talking about?" And it was honestly the hardest thing I've ever done.
yeah,
It was all sleep deprivation. I mean, there were
yeah,
3 days where you get 1 hour sleep, you're getting hot sweats, you're flat, you're getting dizzy. I mean, it was pretty intense, but yeah, I
mhm,
learned a lot, so met some
yeah,
great people too.
of course, yeah, and as you say, you went on to win it and smash it, so and take away so much from it. And around that time as well, like, you just had your first child, so, like, how was it sort of managing so many monumental shifts in your life, like, with so much else going on as well at that time?
Yeah, yeah. So a couple years, just a few years after The Apprentice, and my magazine was doing really well, and we were getting ready to launch another business, the running series. And I had my daughter, and always thought I'd be about like work life balance. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
yeah, I learned very quickly, and I still believe this today that there is no such thing as work life balance.
yeah,
And I've learned recently, I would say, as my kids have gotten older, that it is about work life integration. If you can do it, right?
yeah,
Integrating your family at work, your family at home all together. Because otherwise, I truly don't believe there can be balance unless you integrate all those pieces. So
yeah,
I think of my family as not only my family at home, but my work family. I've brought my children with me to events. I've brought my boyfriend with me to events. Like otherwise, there is no balance, right? Unless you can
yeah.
integrate those things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you've obviously learned that through your experiences, and it's definitely right. And you have to obviously enjoy what you do to be able to do that, to be able to bring them in. And so, even though I'm sure your sort of diary and calendar is hectic and busy, like I know you must get exhausted, but it's the enjoyment that comes from those things, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We mentioned this right before we started. It is I'm exhausted, but I love my job, so I can't complain. It's the best job in the world.
100%. So since then, you've obviously become a celebrated author, writing 9 books, which have gone to like rave reviews, which cover business, healthy eating, lifestyle, and much more. And this started in 2007 when you released Winning Nice: How to Succeed in Business and Life Without Waging War, which I actually have right here. I've been
Oh my
reading
gosh,
through and making some notes. I came prepared as well today.
my very young photo on that cover. Oh my
Yes.
goodness.
No, it's really got so much insight in it, and obviously, like you go on to highlight how to stay positive in the face of adversity, and importantly, something I really picked up on is the fact that you really focus on treating others with respect and recognizing their work, but also their personal achievements along the way. And I think you sort of highlighted why that's maybe vital to your success and the success of those around you. But maybe what led to you wanting to share that perspective, and what do you hope that people are going to take away from maybe reading that book or
Yeah.
many others?
I just feel like in my career, I've had some people that have just been so fabulous, taking me under their wing, helping me. I think having a mentor is so important. I've been fortunate enough to have a couple that have just really helped me, I believe, in getting to where I am today. But I've also had a couple really, really bad experiences where I've just had people who were just not nice,
Yeah,
not great leaders. And I just remember thinking that, gosh, when I become a leader, and this is again when I was in my early 20s, but when I become a leader, I'm going to be a great leader, right? And I always look for the best in everybody. And I think when you give kind of that leeway to people to shine, they will, right? If you
cool.
hold them back, I think there are a lot of people out there that hold others back. And I'm all about like, give me your ideas, tell me your ideas. If I like the idea, then show me how we can make this happen. And I'm really, really willing. I don't need the credit. I think I learned very early on that, I mean, to be a good leader, I'm fine giving the credit to somebody else. You know what I mean? And if
Mhm.
somebody on my team does a great job or has a great idea, I'm going to be the first one that says to my board, Danny had a great idea, or Judy had a great idea, or Nicole had a great idea. It doesn't need to be mine. You know what I mean? So I don't know. And again, there's so many things in that book, and that book is very old, but it's so interesting to think that most of those items still
Yeah.
pertain today. You know what I mean? Even though I wrote it 20 years ago. But yeah, I just think it's a people thing, right? If you really treat people well, they're going to love working for you, and they're going to work really hard for the organization then, and then everybody wins.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's actually like vital, like you say, in work, but also as a runner and different things as well. Just like listening to those people around you, being like a bit of a sponge, like taking on all that information and trying to sort of decipher through and work out like what's going to be helpful and useful and making mistakes along the way and learning through that. It's I
Yeah.
definitely find that myself when I'm over the last sort of few years as I've done more marathons and different things. I've actually like the biggest improvements have been because of the people around me and the people that have supported me along the way and have got me there. I've sort of, I think I mentioned to you before that I've asked Rob Dalto, who's obviously been on the podcast before and stuff. He's going to give me my 6 star in Boston in April
Oh,
because
wonderful.
yeah, because he's someone who's been there and supported me so much along the way, and it's like people like that who really you learn from, and I give so much credit and support to him. So yeah, so shortly
Yeah,
after
and he is
doing
fabulous, and
that.
he has such a positive attitude. I love it every time I see him. It's so wonderful. So good for you though. That's a good support system right there.
Yeah, 100%. I do. I'm very fortunate, especially over the years through the podcast. I did Valencia Marathon on a Sunday, and got a new PB actually. And yeah, I had
Yay! Oh
like
my
Gina
goodness.
and Richard messaging me like, Stick to the plan, don't drink too much." Like, don't. Yeah, I was like, I suddenly got all of this like advice and support from these like world records and Olympians, and
I was
you
gonna
know,
say you have the best of the best right there. Oh my
literally, yeah,
goodness.
yeah,
Good for
super
you.
support. But absolutely. So you do have to sort of take on from those who've done it and have different perspectives and different experiences than you. And I think that is so
Yeah,
vital.
and having a coach, whether it's an online coach, whether it's a in-person coach, I think is so important. I mean, I improved so much when I was doing my Ironman training. I had one of the best coaches in the world. I was living in San Diego, and he just took me from here to, I mean, just unbelievable, the difference in just when you listen, like you said, absorb it, be a
Yeah.
sponge. They
Yeah.
know better than I do, especially it was my first time starting to do that distance, and have the nutrition and the training and the not overtraining and all of those things. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just incredible. So good for you.
Super, super cool. I also think you're completely right about the overtraining part as well, because that was something that I would just keep training through things. Actually, I've started in September. I started working with Liz Yelling, so she's my coach now, and again,
Nice.
she's given so much support. I've got to catch up with her after this actually about Sunday. So we'll yeah we get start thinking about Boston as the next one.
Oh my
So
goodness.
in 2009, you obviously created the women's half marathon series that you talked about before, and it feels like this maybe would have been in response to experiences of women in the sport at the time. Was that perhaps the case?
Yeah, I mean, it's so different now, right? Where a lot of, at least for in the US and in the European races, I mean, there is a pretty good mix, 50-50. Sometimes even in the States, it might even be higher than 50% are women. But it wasn't like that when I started the race. And it was also, I was starting the race series based on kind of the magazine where there were a lot of just beginners or first timers, people who wanted to start running and do longer distance, do a half marathon, do a full marathon, and they didn't know how to do it and how to begin or how to even fit it into their life when they have a job and they have kids. And so it was really just having a place for women to feel comfortable to do their very first race, right? Get off the sofa, start with a 5K, do a 10K, and finally, get to that half marathon distance, which I think that distance starts the kind of really feeling good about an accomplishment, right? Of course, a
Yeah,
marathon, absolutely. But that half marathon distance also, you finish and you really did something,
yeah,
fabulous. And so it was really just about getting women out there. So we had so many first timers, you know what I mean, doing it. And when I sold the company in 2012, the magazine and the race series, we then had 5 events and in each a different state, in the US. And yeah, it was just fabulous to see kind of what we were able to do and all the lives we were able to touch. And listen, I love the elite race. We all do. However, I am partial to the middle and the back of the pack, like
yeah,
loving those stories, like watching people come in and just being, I mean, in tears, and families coming out and hugging, and the little kids with signs on the road, and all of that, that's where I get kind of my energy from, really, is that. And that's what it was with women's running and with my women's half marathon series.
Definitely, 100%, and you sort of see that as well, don't you? And when you're in London and seeing the final finishes and people like that, it's super inspiring. I find the stories that you find along the way and, the journeys that people have been on to get there so inspiring. And obviously we can
Absolutely.
still see that for women in particular, it's still perhaps an issue. Like in the past week, I was reading the BBC News, they'd sort of said that some women still fear for their safety for running after dark. So do you think it's still an area that maybe needs further development and trying to support that?
I mean, I do. I don't think we're ever perfect, right? We're not there yet. We're not. And yes, and safety, it's interesting. I mean, I have two kids, right? A son who's 16 and a daughter who's 18, and she went out to her car last night to get some homework out of her car, and I mean, just
Yeah,
as a mom, right? But we just all need to be smart, right? I used to run by myself at night, and didn't think about it. And I think as soon as I became a mom, I'm like, what am I doing? You know what I mean? Like, why am I doing this? Just be smart, have someone to run with. And I don't know, it's a touch point for me, definitely.
yeah,
Yeah, it's just think before you go, right? Is kind of what
yeah.
I do now,
Yeah,
and I think
just
everybody should.
trying to be as safe as possible in that, and
Yeah. Yep.
yeah, hopefully, it will keep progressing in that way for sure. And obviously in 2022 as well, following a stint at Running USA, you then became the CEO of the Abbott World Marathon Majors, as you are today. At that time, you described it as an opportunity of a lifetime. Has it proven to be just that? I'm sure.
Yeah, I know, it really has. I mean, didn't know exactly what to expect. I remember being in my interview, process, and it was a lengthy process, and thinking, I said no to several interviews first, which nobody really knows that. I don't usually talk about, but I said no, no, I'm happy, I'm happy. You know what I mean? The
Yeah,
headhunter was calling me, and
yeah,
then he called again and again, and then he finally said they haven't found anybody yet they're really happy about. Are you sure? You know what I mean? And so I went
yeah,
in, and I did the interview process, and I really, two of the board members were doing the initial in person that I got to meet. I, flew to Chicago. They were having a board meeting, and I just really fell in love with the idea of it.
mm,
And there was so far to take it, like from what I saw just 3 years ago, where it was, and what the
sure,
plan
yeah,
was, to do. I'm like, this is my wheelhouse. I love growing new businesses, new programs. It was a very small team at the time. Now we're a much larger team,
yeah,
and yeah, it was the best decision I could have ever made. So I this is the happiest I've been. And listen, I've been miserable on Wall Street, okay in consulting. I've been super happy when I launched my two companies, super happy when I was president of a sports nutrition company. Like, I've had great jobs. I've been very lucky. I've never, I mean, this is, I don't even know how to explain it. It's the pinnacle, right? It's,
yeah,
you get to do something you love, you get to change lives, you get to work with really smart and energetic and passionate people.
yeah.
And although I travel a ton, which I thought I would hate, I love, but it's exhausting. I mean, just getting to see the world and getting to meet new people and new cultures. And am I talking too much? Listen, I
No,
like,
not at all, not
I
at all.
love
You're answering all the questions that
I
I
love
mean,
it.
you're telling me all the I was about to say, like, what are your highlights? But you're giving me so many because
Yeah.
there are so many, and it's actually really interesting to see how often when you've maybe initially maybe not thought it was the right thing for you, like whether it be with The Apprentice or with this, it's actually when you said no initially, thank goodness people have kept sort of knocking on the door because look at
Thank goodness,
where
because
it's
yeah, I
taken
can't
us.
imagine not being here. You know what I mean? Like, now that I've been here, I'm just over 3 years now. I cannot even fathom having not accepted the job. You know what I mean? Like, and again, I think the best part of it, and hopefully others on my team would say this, but I just have a fabulous team. You know what I mean? I really do. I have a fabulous board, which is made up of the six original, race directors in the series, and my team is honestly the most passionate team I've ever worked with in my whole life, and I've had some passionate team members before, so it's been fabulous.
It's pretty special, isn't it? I mean, I was talking to Danny obviously before, and we were saying about the fact that like a race day is and being on that like finish line is quite possibly the best place in the world. So for you to be able to experience that multiple times throughout the year, I mean, how can you not be like thrilled by it and excited by it? And
Yeah.
obviously, like since taking over, you've touched on the fact that it has grown and expanded like massively, and the six-star medal in particular has become a symbol of triumph. Like, why do you think people have connected with that so much and become so invested in it?
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple reasons. One, just a fabulous accomplishment, right? Something you can feel really good about, but something you also have to strive for. It's not easy. Let's be
Mhm.
honest. It's not easy just to train and do all those events.
Yeah.
One, it's not easy getting into those events, as you
True.
know, it's really difficult. But that's what makes it so special, right? If it was super easy to do a marathon, even just one, and if it
Yeah.
was super easy to do a series of marathons, then it wouldn't be as special or spectacular. So it is difficult, and we do realize that. And we, at least at Abbott World Marathon Majors, are trying to find ways to help people get in because that's the first step, right? You got to get in so that you can get this 6-star medal and do the journey. Um, but yeah, it is just such an incredible accomplishment. And you get to go to bucket list cities, you know what I mean? That
Yeah.
maybe you would never decide or never go to. And it gives you a reason, like why you are going to go to Sydney, why you're going to go to London, why you're going to go to New York. I mean,
Yeah.
so yeah, all in all, it's an incredible accomplishment.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it? And it's those journeys along the way that have sort of led you to that point. When I know when I was involved in giving out some of the 6 stars in London last year, it was, it's so special because you get to have that moment. That's the culmination of all of these different moments that have led to that. So it's super special. And obviously, on a previous episode as well, I spoke to Danny Coyle, obviously as the CEO of the Abbott World Marathon Majors, and we discussed the fact that it's obviously expanding further into the 9 star medal. What's sort of been the reason behind that for you, do you think, in terms of trying to
Yeah.
make it even bigger?
Yeah, and I'm not the person that is believes bigger is better. I'm not, you know what I mean? But we are world marathon majors, right? And we are not worldwide, right?
Mhm.
And so, yes, if you live in Europe, you have, two races there. If you live in the US, you have three races there. If you're in But we're not worldwide. And so that was the impetus to say, okay, listen, we want to reach more people. We want more people to get involved, not only in the series, not only doing the 6-star, or hopefully we'll talk about the 9-star, but just to have a major on their continent, you know what I mean? Which is the
Definitely.
reason we did it. So, and I think everybody, initially, I think our core audience, the people on the journey, were like, why are you doing this? Right. And then as soon as Sydney finally passed and became a major, I mean, that same group is like, this is fabulous. I can't wait to go, or I'm going next year, or I'm going in 2027. And everybody's so excited. And everybody who's done the race now is just, we got so much positive feedback about it.
Yeah.
Change is difficult, right? Change is one of those things people get
Always.
nervous about until it's here, and then you embrace it. And then typically you love it, is what happens.
Absolutely. And I think you're completely right. And I know Danny touched on it as well in terms of actually making it fully worldwide. And, as somebody who lives in England, and maybe it's a bit easier for me to get to some of these other races, or if you're based in the US, obviously there's a few more there because that's the original sort of place where it started.
Yep.
For people who are based in Sydney, it's a trek. So, it only makes it right
Exactly.
that, and also it only makes sense, I think, that Sydney should be a part of it because, it's Sydney, and obviously then looking at to like Shanghai and Cape Town potentially
Yep.
as well.
Yep.
It kind of makes sense, and we know as well that the 6 star medal will stay there, the original six, and then you've got that 9 star. So, yeah,
Yeah, so which is the milestone, right? But we didn't want to pull the 6-star away from all the people that have been on this journey that are at 3 stars, 4 stars, 5 stars, and all of a sudden say, just kidding, now there's no more, 6-star
yeah,
medal,
of
or
course.
it's different. And so we didn't want to change that. We do get the question a lot though. Well, what happens when I get my 7th star? What happens when I get my
Yeah,
8th star? Because we've mentioned, right, that, and we've told everybody, it's public, that there's the 6-star, and then there will be, the 9-star medal.
yeah,
And the question is, well, what do I get for 7? And I'm always say, well, what do you get for 4? What do you get
yeah,
for 5? No, there's
yeah,
two milestones, right? There's the
yeah,
6-star milestone, and then there'll be the 9-star milestone. And I don't know if Danny said this or not, but and nobody has seen this outside of my team and the board, but
yeah.
the 9-star medal is developed.
Oh
And
wow,
oh
exciting.
my, I mean, I don't even know. I just got chills. It is
Bye.
unbelievable. So, yeah,
Wow.
and what an accomplishment that will be, right?
Yeah,
And what an experience you'll have,
yeah.
adding those hopefully 3, races, on.
Yeah, that's just giving me shivers thinking of that. I can't wait. And as you say, like you've got that six and seven. You've got the experience of going to Sydney, and you've got that also in your sort of cannons. And then seven, eight, and then to top it off with that 9 star medal when you get it is going to be just incredible. I can't wait for my sixth, let alone my 9. So it's super exciting. I know for the majors as well, a big objective has been to make it more inclusive and to try and open it up. And I actually spoke to Richard Whitehead before we were speaking today, and he asked me to sort of ask you how important it is for the majors in terms of having representation at your events.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think those are the things we talk about as a group when I say a group as a series, right? When we have our board meetings, there's all these important topics, of course, that we talk about. And grant operational excellence is one of those things, and it's the reason kind of the majors started, right? But yeah, inclusivity is so important, and we talk about it all the time. And we just did our first time ever duos in Tokyo, right?
Yeah.
Which was fabulous to see.
Hmm.
And these are the things that, Abbott World Marathon Majors, we're striving for. But everything takes time, right? So, very important, top of mind, and sometimes a slower process than we would love, right? We want to be able to snap our fingers and make the changes that we want to make, but it's a process, and we're on that journey to make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see the progress that's being made. And as you say,
Thank you.
it does take time because obviously there's multiple races that need to be able to implement these things and put them in place. And another friend of ours, Thomas Eller, also being the world's first deaf-born six-star finisher, has sort of been paving the way for deaf athletes across all the majors and helped to introduce the deaf runner back bibs this past year and so. And I know his next big goal is the sort of creation of a deaf race category. Do you sort of see that being possible in the near future, and maybe what steps would be needed to be able to?
Yeah, which is so interesting because I have not heard that part before. The back bibs, I'm working with him. We're trying to figure that out. We're slowly rolling that out. And I just first want to say he is fabulous. I have see him at every single race, and
I saw him on Sunday.
I don't know if he told you, he brings me chocolate every single race. I'm like, oh, so my daughter finally shared with me how to say, thank you for the chocolate in sign language, and but I meet up with
Oh,
him at every
amazing.
single race and get the biggest hug, and he's wonderful, and he is doing so much for the
Yeah,
deaf community. And so
yeah,
being able to see that, the back bibs are happening at the different races, and
yeah,
like I said, it's a process, right? But if we can get one race in our series to do it, and then we talk about it and we get another race, and it just goes on from there, and it's a much easier job, right? When you have a large amount of the races doing it, where you can say, hey, everybody's doing it but you, let's, and
yeah,
then they're like, oh gosh, well, why aren't we doing it?
yeah,
And so but yeah, so Thomas has been incredible. We did a mini docu series on him,
yeah.
and just what he's doing, and I met a whole bunch of his students when we were in Berlin. But yes, we are working with him, and hope to make those changes.
No, brilliant. He really is, like you say. I also watched his documentary, and like before I knew him I think when I was out in Chicago, so a few years ago, and then to know him now, and he's just as inspiring in real life. Doesn't give me any chocolate though, so I will be messaging
I
him
know I
saying
shouldn't have said that, right?
amongst all of this as well, there's so much else going on for you. You're an athlete yourself. You've completed the Hawaii Ironman. You recently completed an ultra marathon. What are these experiences like for you in terms of the training around your life, and what have they been like in terms of
Yeah, it's funny.
understanding on the other side?
I want to say still I'm an athlete, right? But at the same time, it's like I probably have done less since starting my company. I probably ran less once I started my running company.
Yeah.
And again, with kids and all of that. And I have not done the ultra yet. I'm doing that. So that
Is
is
that one coming
that's
up?
the weekend before Tokyo. So I
Well,
have
by
a
the time this goes out, you will have done it. You will
Oh
have done
no!
it. You're
Oh my
saying at
gosh!
the
Okay,
start of
so we
April,
won't know how I did, or it's one of our partners in front, who we work with. They have a race series, and so I'm doing a 50K in Mallorca, Spain. But it is not like what you would think an ultra marathon. It is a hiking. I mean, I will have a pack on. I mean,
yeah,
we'll have walking sticks, and I'm doing it
yeah,
with a really
oh,
good
yeah,
girlfriend of mine. And so we've been training together, which has been really fun. But they have a 50% do not finish rate. So
wow,
I'm really nervous. I mean, you think about that. I mean, the number of DNFs in a marathon or even in an Ironman is so small, and this
yeah.
is 50%. And so we're really worried that, the cutoff,
I've,
12-hour
I've,
cutoff time for the
yeah.
50K. Yeah, we're training hard to make sure that we
I've got
finish.
faith in you. I think you've got this. I think you've got this in the bag. It's a totally different game. You're right. I did
Oh yeah.
100K in June, and yeah, it's a really really different type of training plan and different experience, isn't it? So
Yes.
yeah, just enjoy it, and also just enjoy all the food stations. Maybe that's why people don't finish so quick, because I too. That's why I probably stopped not finished, because I was stuck on aid station 2, having having a full sandwich and
Oh
breakfast.
my gosh, that's so funny. No, you think about like, I mean, again, I've done marathons, I've done Ironman, and typically they say for these ultras, and it sounds like you know better than I do, but it's more about like joints and blisters and nutrition and those kind of things, right? Than just pure, oh, I can't do this. And so I don't know, I am nervous about that part of it because it's even with runners that do. I asked Elliot Kipchoge once. I said, "You look like it was after Berlin." I said, "You don't even look like you ran." And it was like maybe an hour or two after the race.
Yeah,
And he joked. He's like, "It's the shoes," and I'm like, "Sure it is." And he's like, "No, listen, Donna, I'm out there for 2 hours." He's
yeah,
like, the people who are out there for 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours,
absolutely.
those are the ones that are sore and it's hard on your body. And I'm like, oh gosh, I just don't think about it that way, right? And so
Yeah.
for this ultra, I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna be on my feet and out there walking for 12 hours or, yeah, it'll be
Well,
interesting.
yeah, that is the thing, it's how long you're out on your feet, but I have to say, I found it quite a nice day out, I enjoyed it, so, like,
Okay, good.
it's a different game to the
Yeah.
marathon. When I finished on Sunday, especially because I was going for a PB, which is only happens once or twice a year, I was like, "I'm pleased to be finishing this." Whereas the ultra, I was like, "Oh, this is great, this is fun,"
Oh,
like, this
good.
is
Oh,
a
I love
great.
hearing that. Thank you. A little
Yeah,
more
you
motivation.
you'll be absolutely fine. And obviously, I guess the big question is for you is, would you ever maybe think of then doing the 6 or the 9 at the majors? Is
Yeah, I honestly feel horrible that I have not done them, right? Because I mean, can you imagine? I get that question every
yeah, I
single
imagine,
time
yeah.
I'm at a race. What star are you on? Do you have your 6 star? You know what I mean? And sometimes I have these 6 star pins on my backpack because I
Yeah,
have them. So if I meet somebody, I give them to them. And so everybody thinks, oh, have you done it 3 times? I'm like, no, I haven't done it. I haven't even done it once. Um, so it has been, I would say, I don't want to say impossible because nothing is impossible. And a lot of my board members go and they race, right? And they
yeah,
do the other races.
yeah,
I have found it very difficult to be able to potentially step away and do one of the races, at least in these last 3 years. There's just no way. There's too much going on, too much growth that we're having. I can't even imagine getting on the starting line after the 4, 5, 6 days that I've been there, the late nights, the board
yeah,
meetings,
of
all the
course.
stuff. However, I was in Shanghai and Hugh Brasher, who's the London
Yeah,
CEO and race director, was there. And I said, I think I might do London this
yeah,
year. And I said, I think I'm at that part where I have such a great team that
yeah,
I could say, like, hey, I'm going to go do this and I'll be gone, for however many hours.
yeah.
But I'm thinking that I might run walk it. Is that horrible?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I actually just found out I'm doing London on Monday. I've just qualified for it, and I'm obviously doing Boston on the Boston on the
Oh,
Monday and
yes.
London on the
It's six
Sunday.
days earlier.
So
Yes.
yeah, my plan is to enjoy the party in London for sure. So I will
Yeah.
probably also be run walk, just enjoying it. So there's nothing wrong with that, especially in London. You've got so much support. Like
Yeah.
it's basically a big party out there. So yeah, I was going
Well,
to
I'm
ask you.
very much about, like, if I'm gonna do something, doing it all the way, like, I have this,
Yeah,
serious A personality, and so that's why I have not been racing for a while. Because when I was like, "Okay, if I can't do it at the top of my game, I'm not gonna do it," which is a horrible way to think of things, and so I think I'm finally on that mindset of, like, "Well, I'll just do my races as
yeah,
training for if I decide to do the 100K,"
there
and
you go.
so
Yeah,
maybe the races you're allowed to have a pack. Maybe I bring my pack and I run walk and you know what I mean? And I just
yeah,
get those extra miles in. It's like a training for the 100K. So that's how I'm in my mind doing it. But I did tell Hugh that London, I'm
yeah.
thinking of doing. So
Okay, well, maybe see you out there then. See you on
yes,
the course. Yeah,
yes,
well, I agree. I also look at it like that. As I say, I have like 1 or 2 in a year that are sort of where you're really going for a time, and then particularly in the majors, I love to enjoy it because there's so much around the week and around the weekend that I remember being in London this year and being like, "I can't even imagine running tomorrow." And then next year I'm gonna be running. So yeah, I know the exact feeling because 'cause you're just exhausted, but yeah,
yeah,
London will lift you up, and I will also be using it as a bit of a, as a experience to get me maybe to something else along the way.
perfect. Yeah, I might
But
have to ask Rob to train me too, or Dina or somebody. Actually,
yeah,
I should see. No, I shouldn't see. There I go. Nope.
yeah.
Just have fun.
For sure, well, you put it out. No,
Yeah.
definitely. I'm sure we can all
Oh,
give you some support along the way. So I actually spoke to Dina just a few days ago, and she was telling me how she'd seen you recently. She also told me that you have a great network of friends around you, and she wanted to know what you're doing in your downtime outside of running.
downtime? What? Well, as she knows, because I saw her in Mammoth, I went to Shanghai and then on my way home, stopped in California and I went skiing for a few days. I don't take very much vacation and I'm all over my team about, okay, we got to take vacation because we all just travel and work so much. But
Yeah.
I don't have a ton of downtime. If I do, I'm spending it with my son's in boarding school, so I only see him when he's home. But my daughter is still, she has one more year at home before she goes off to college or university.
Yeah.
So spending as much time as I can with her. A lot of, I mean, training for this, ultra
Yeah.
hiking race that we're doing. And I love to ski. It's probably my favorite thing. And, I moved to Florida from California 20 some years ago. And so don't get out there as much anymore.
Yeah.
But if I have any time, even if it's just a 3-day little window somewhere, I like to be out on the mountain and skiing, hiking, those kind
Yeah.
of things. But as Dina knows, I don't have very much free time yet. I'm working on that. That is something I'm working on.
That's good. That's a good goal to have going into 2026 as well. And as well as that, like listeners and viewers will be hearing or seeing this episode just after the start of the 2026 major season. So we always know that kicks off in Tokyo. What can people expect if they're perhaps taking part in one of or even all of the majors in 2026?
Yeah, I mean, we will be there on the sidelines cheering them on. We will be there at the sixth tent
You might
waiting for
you might actually be
those.
on the course.
Okay, well, maybe, right? But yeah, just I mean, I love race day. Leading up to race day, there's so much that goes on for me and my team, but it's all worthwhile on that day, right? When the gun goes off and everybody starts, and most spectacular, of course, is the finish when you're seeing everybody come in and everybody's so happy about their accomplishment. And so, I'll be at that six-star tent. I'll be on the sidelines cheering. And we're doing more and more activations. I mean, than we've ever done before. So we're trying to do a lot more events. We have this gold club now where we're doing very intimate, like breakfasts and cocktail hours and panel discussions and meet and greets, and it's not easy to do, especially when you're at a race where there's 50 or 60,000 people and you're having breakfast with 30 people.
Yeah.
But we are trying to do more and more activations around those people on their journey, and also specifically those getting their 6 star and down the road, of course, their 9 star.
Absolutely. And as you say, I think all of those things are what make the majors so special. And I don't just say it to you, I say it to everyone. I think they are truly the greatest series in the world. I think, they're so special to so many people. And yeah, it's just a privilege to be involved, really. So shortly after the release of this episode, you and I will be in Boston, where I'll be earning that 6 star, which I really, really can't wait for. And as I say, I'll be back in London now on the Sunday as well. What can I expect when I cross that finish line in Boston Street and collect my 6 star medal?
Yeah, well, I'm so excited for you that you're doing that in Boston. That'll be so fun, first off. And, I mean, it's hard. Every race is so different, right? And they're all special in their own way. I mean, Boston, that finish line is just incredible, right? Because, I mean, it's Boston. I mean,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't
I
know
mean, it
what
was
else to
always a dream for me
say.
to do it there. That was the place. That was always the plan. So it's going to
Yeah.
be just unreal, isn't it? And it's going to be really cool as well, actually, to come back to London because that is the first one that I did. So yeah, to bring it right back on the Sunday for that party,
Are
like
you
you
are
said.
you going to run London with your 6 star medal on you?
It's something I thought about. I only had a few days to think about it, but I did think it was just on my mind this morning. It's like, could I run with that?
Just tape it on or whatever. And
Yeah, I might
yeah.
do. I might do because as I say, I'm just gonna be having a great time. So, like, there's no and I feel like everyone will be even more engaged if they see that for sure. They'll definitely
Oh,
wanna cheer me on. So, yeah,
I
we'll have
love
to
it.
see. We'll have to see if you
Yeah,
see
no, I will
see
be
me
I
out
will be there in Boston. I will be, it sounds like Rob's giving you your 6 star medal, which will be fabulous, and we'll
there.
be out there cheering for you. And yeah, I don't know, the any accomplishment, right? No matter what it is. It's like when I finished Hawaii Ironman, I had wanted to do it since I was 12 years old because my swim coach had done it. And I mean, I didn't even know what it was before then, and then I
Yeah,
watched it on TV, and it was my dream to do. And it took me a long time, right? From 12 years old on until
yeah,
I did it. But when I finished, it wasn't like there was somebody setting off fireworks for me or having a giant
yeah,
party with a band, or it was just an accomplishment that you did, and I mean, your family and your friends, felt really proud of. And I don't know, I see that as our journey too, right? It's so spectacular, but nobody's setting off fireworks for you, right? It is internal to me, right? As much as we're cheering and we have the 6 star tent and we have the medal, I think where the celebration is in here, right? That you
yeah.
accomplished something really fabulous that not a lot of people have accomplished.
Definitely. I think, as I say, when I was in London as well, seeing, speaking to people and seeing their journey, it's what they've developed, that strength. And I know, as
Yeah.
somebody, as I say, who couldn't run for 5 minutes and then running London and then, now doing the 6 stars, it really is remarkable to me to be able to do that. So it's going to be super, super special. And that actually brings me on to my last question, actually. And finally, we ask this question to everyone who comes on the podcast, and it's specifically for you. Like, what would you say to someone who's maybe looking to start their running journey? Perhaps a woman who's taken on her first half marathon, or was maybe a bit nervous to start, or maybe another runner who's looking to begin their majors journey and says to you, I could never do that. I can't even run for the bus.
Yeah, I mean, this may not sound like something, awe-inspiring, but for me, it's always just start. I mean, that's the hardest part, is just start, just make a goal, set it, and just start. And it may take longer than you expect. It may be harder than you expect. It might be easier than you expect. But I think the thing that holds us back is just not taking that first step on anything, right? It's whether
Yeah,
you're launching a new business, whether you're starting a new job, whether I mean, a new hobby, a new whatever. It's just about getting started, right? And so it was kind of running for me. Like I said, I never ran. I was a swimmer, and we ran for punishment. It was awful. And then I just remember my roommate and I saying, "Let's just go do it. Let's just go see if we can run a mile in Central Park." You know what I mean? In the morning, I remember we had our gloves on, our hats on. It was cold before work,
yeah,
and 1 mile turns into two, two turns into three. You just can't expect to be there right away, right? So
exactly.
one
Yeah,
foot in front of the other and just start. Just start.
yeah.
It's so worth it.
Enjoy that journey, enjoy the process, as you say. It's
Absolutely.
like going from 5 minutes to 10 minutes to 16 hours if you're
Yep.
whatever, if you're doing an ultra or something like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, the journey itself is what's so rewarding.
I
I
think the
really
journey is, yeah, the most important. I mean, there are a lot of people out there that love the race day, right? And race day is, of course, fabulous. I would
yeah,
say I'm the person who I love the training. I
yeah,
love the day in, day out getting me to that end goal, actually more than the end goal. Like that's the
yeah.
process for me. Which is why probably I'm still just training all the time rather than racing all the time. I love the training. I've always loved training.
Yeah, it's what makes you who you are. I think it's that development, and it filters in so much more of your life, because like going from like when I come back into it and did Berlin and New York, like seeing that sort of journey from there to now, like I've knocked off like an hour and 10 minutes from that time, but it's not because in like 2 years, not because I was doing it like all the not enjoying it, but more because I was actually having the support of the people around me in that community
Yeah.
and developing. And so that when I look back at that, that's what I see as the growth, not maybe the time as such, even though that's
Right.
amazing. And
Yeah.
so yeah, for sure. But thank you so much for coming on, Dawn. I seriously appreciate it, and I'm super grateful. So thank you.
Thank you. This was so fun. And I will see you soon, it sounds like.
Yeah, can't wait to see you in Boston for sure.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. This was fabulous. I appreciate it.
That's an absolute pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode of Running for the Bus, presented by BKDMC. Thank you to our guest today, Dawna Stone, our Deliriously Mad Challengers, runner, and the podcast room for their support. You can get 2 weeks free runner coaching using the code BKDMC. Head to the Ben Kelleher DMC Insta now to find the tread playlist, the rookie runners training plan, information on how you can become a Deliriously Mad Challenger, and lots, lots more. If you've enjoyed the show, well, what are you waiting for? Hit follow and you'll be notified every time a new episode drops. We'd also love to hear from you, so do drop us a message or leave a review. See you next time on Running for the Bus, where you can listen and watch on the run, on the bus, or whilst you're running for it. Thank you so
Yeah,
much
I'm
for
glad I stayed on. That was awesome. You were
that.
amazing.
Oh,